to. All right. Well, hello, greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Zachary Bowman. I'm the manager of education and visitor experience at the Dorsky Museum, and I'm excited to welcome Karlyn Benson, guest curator of Collective Consciousness, new work by SUNY New Paltz art faculty, to speak about the show. We host an exhibition of SUNY New Paltz art faculty roughly every 4 years at the museum, and it is among my favorite of our exhibition series. Not only does the show provide a glimpse at what our uniquely talented faculty is working on, it also provides a bit of context for the work that our students produce for their thesis exhibitions. My cat is tearing apart my chair. Together, the thesis and faculty exhibitions provide a composite look at the rich creative life at our university. I feel very lucky to be a part of this community, and very grateful to be able to call these talented artists and educators my colleagues. I know that you will enjoy learning about their work and Karlyn's work on the exhibition, and I also hope you'll consider seeing it in person before it closes on April 11th. If you have any questions during Karlyn's presentation, I invite you to just go ahead and put them in the chat window, and we'll have time to ask Karlyn afterwards. I've asked Karlyn to introduce herself. She and I agreed that those sort of lengthy resume reading introductions that preface a lot of these talks can be a little awkward. So without further ado, join me in welcoming Karlyn Benson, and thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you, Zach. Hi, I'm Karlyn Benson, guest curator for Collective Consciousness, new work by SUNY New Paltz art faculty. I'm currently the exhibitions director at the Kleiner James Center for the Arts, Woodstock Birdcliff Guild in Woodstock, New York. And I was the owner and director of Mattawan Gallery in Beacon from 2013 to 2018. I also write about art in Art Valley, a blog I launched in 2020, and I provide art writing services for artists and institutions. I've been interested in Hudson Valley artists for many years, so it has been a wonderful opportunity to curate this exhibition and learn more about the work of the art department faculty. I'd like to thank the Samuel Dorsky Museum of Art for giving me the opportunity to work with this group of exceptional artists. And I'd also, it's been a great experience to work with the staff of the museum, and special thanks go to Anna Conlin, Wayne Lemke, Bob Wagner, Amy Fredrickson, Zach Bowman, Amy Perkerine for their support. Before I begin to talk about the exhibition, I would like to comment on what it was like to curate a show in 2020. In a normal year, I would have been able to visit the artist studios to see their work in person, but due to the pandemic, I had to curate it remotely, which is unfortunate. I didn't have the experience of visiting artist studios, meeting them in person, but I did get to speak with them on the phone and through emails and Zoom meetings. And I worked closely with Anna Conlin and Bob Wagner in the gallery in person to determine exactly where the artwork would be installed. So it was really nice to have that in-person experience at the end in the museum. And as Zach already said, there's nothing like seeing the show in person in real life. And so I encourage everyone, if they can make it to the museum, to try to see it in person. I'm going to share my screen now. It's not, okay, here we go. Sorry, here we go. Does everybody see that? Great. So Collective Consciousness contains work by 21 artists in a wide range of mediums, including painting, sculpture, photography, fiber art, video, ceramics, metal, and installation. The title Collective Consciousness refers to the sense of community in the art department and the faculty's ability to come together for each other and their students during the COVID-19 pandemic. The exhibition is a rare communal experience during a year marked by isolation and distance. Before I take you on a tour of the gallery, I will first briefly discuss each artist and give you an overview of some of the ideas behind the work in the show. Several themes emerged as I was curating the exhibition. The most prominent theme in collective consciousness is an interest in nature and a concern for the environment. And numerous works directly or indirectly address the damaging effects of climate change. An interest in environmental issues leads some artists to work with larger community through collaborative projects. So the first two artists I'm going to talk about are Jill Parisi Phillips on the left. Her work features etchings and lithographs of flora and fauna from imaginary ecosystems. She likens her creative process to jazz. She riffs on nature, taking colors and structures from a variety of species and places and reconfigures them in a new way. Her work comes alive at close distance by the revelation of detailed patterns and smaller, more delicate objects hidden beneath the first layer of the installation. And next to her, I have Robin Arnold's paintings, which I think that's blocking. Robin Arnold's paintings reflect her interest in environmental and cultural issues and how the daily overload of images and messages can distract us from critical global concerns. Through intersecting layers of images, text, and binary code, her work invites viewers to consider impacts of human action or inaction on aspects of the environment. Okay. And Andrea Frank on the left, her images explore the natural world and its life force, while also calling attention to environmental degradation and climate change. Her photographic, digitally composited images are from a series that addresses the increasing fragility of our ecosystems and a longing for the overwhelming and messy beauty and complexity that they hold. Also on view in the exhibition is a video Shapeshifter by Andrea Frank and Michael Asbill, also with Amanda Heidel. And the video engages environmental concerns, exploring the complex interplay of trees, human, and fire. On the right, Andrea Kanczowitz's paintings closely examine small, complex structures formed through natural processes such as accretion, branching, and crystallization. Rocks and minerals, coral, and plants are painted much larger than life, which allows the viewer to investigate small details that might otherwise be overlooked. Michael Asbill's installation Facsimile is a low-tech 3D mapping and reconstruction of a 14-foot hollow log. The artist measures the original log and marks its size on tracing paper and then on sheets of salvaged plywood. Through this slow action, Asbill is attempting to restore his own ties to the natural world that humanity is destroying. The goal of this project is a deep, process-oriented engagement with the complexity and sophistication of what was once a living tree, while acknowledging that the plywood copy is not close to the detail of the original. And Michael has constructed this platform here to hold the log that he found, and then he has a separate table where he's doing this mapping process. Emily Putoff is the co-founder of the Hudson Valley Bee Habitat, a nonprofit arts organization started in 2016 with fellow artists Elena Snezak and Jen Wooden. The Hudson Valley Bee Habitat collaborates with communities to design public art that also functions as pollinator forage and habitat. The bee habitat sculptures in this exhibition can provide shelter for solitary bee populations. Putoff's art practice is part of the Eco-Materialism movement, which challenges artists to create art that is a living part of an ecosystem rather than a commodity. And on the right, Matthew Friday's installation, The Future Waters Shanty Boat, is an ongoing research project by Spurse, a collective of ecosystem artists and designers working with communities and organizations to address complex environmental and social challenges. Inspired by Depression-era riverboats, the Future Waters Shanty Boat is a contemporary canal boat, community hub, marine research vessel, and an off-the-grid squatter's cabin that is designed to navigate waterways, engaging and educating communities along the way. And Matthew's showing designs and sketches for this boat, which is an actual boat that can go up and down the river. Suzanne Stokes' installation includes a series of tableaus between humans, animals, and plants, and between scale, color, and texture. It features layers of monotypes that are embossed with plants from the Hudson Valley's forests and the ocean along Maine's mid-coast region. Stokes' work explores mankind's complicated relationship to water and how the interplay of relationships, spiritualism, and stewardship of the earth shapes our modern world. The next artist Nadia Sablin, documents the effects of climate change on a specific group of people. And her work in the show also crosses over into another theme, which is community and culture. And both Sablin and James Faucet photograph people that they have spent time with in a specific community or location. Nadia Sablin's photographs document a family of reindeer herders who live in the Arctic tundra. Their livelihood relies on following their herd of reindeer over the Ural Mountains and back, in a similar manner to that of their Conti ancestors. Climate change and the encroaching oil industry have made it harder for the family to feed their animals as routes and pastures are disrupted. The children will soon have to decide which path they will pursue, one of education, jobs, and city living, or one of following their reindeer, fighting to maintain this ancient way of life. And on the right, I wish that, okay, I'm gonna move that. James Faucet's photographs are from the series Remembrance, a collection of portraits made of Faucet's family and friends who gathered for his mother's memorial on August 10th, 2019. The portraits capture a moment in one's life, yet they're also reflective of a collective purpose, a group of people brought together for a single gathering of grief and celebration. Sorry. Rena Leinberger and Aurora D'Armendi Sobrino also explore themes of community, culture, and location in their work. Rena Leinberger's photographs document people and places around the Green Line in Palestine near the border with Israel. Her images explore the complexities of border spaces and create tensions between perceived boundaries, liminal spaces, and assumed geographical and political centers. For Leinberger, the camera also becomes a performative object, yet another tourist or research device, with the artist's self-conscious gaze wielded as power. And Aurora D'Armendi Sobrino is interested in marginal histories and cultural identity. For the work shown here, Colores y Territorios, she used Google Earth to investigate the border between the United States and Mexico, developing a series of drawings and interpreting them as low relief clay sculptures. Also on view is D'Armendi Sobrino's unique artist book, which contains 64 monotypes in dense blue and green hues, referencing a boundary between a seascape and a terrestrial landscape. Continuing the theme of community and recent political and social and cultural events, A.D.S. Newhouse's installation, In Touch, A Handwasher's Prayer, is the artist's way to express and share a restless, anxious state of mind and the sense of alienation and claustrophobia felt during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. Newhouse's installation calls attention to the fact that the act of touching a friend, a family member, or even a public surface may never be the same. The installation creates a dialogue between the performative and the private, the ritual of hand washing, and the depiction of hands drawn in ink by the artist's hand. And inside her installation, there's actually a video projected, and there are also drawings, and the drawings on the back wall are also hers as well. And third prominent theme in collective consciousness is technology and process. And several artists in the exhibition use technology or an unusual process to address issues related to nature, culture, and society. Anat Shifdan's prints and ceramic sculptures on the left explore ambivalence in the natural world and its representation in art. Her work portrays nature amid a range of shifting human social contexts, from sexuality, life and death, to power, wealth, and subversion. These representations of the natural world ultimately reflect complex political and social attitudes, such as how art that deals with nature is inherently informed by the history of scientific botanical drawing. And on the right, Brian Chivez's sculptures are an attempt to make objects as proxies for family history and memory. His work begins with taking thousands of photographs that document various personal and collective histories. An algorithm processes the photographs into digital 3D models, which are reproduced on extrusion 3D printer. Sorry, let me try that again. They're reproduced on extrusion clay 3D printer that he built for this purpose. Chivez uses clay as a material of record and permanence while examining the meaning of the term handmade. His work exists in a space somewhere between the promise of technology and the reality of impermanence and loss. And Aaron Nelson is interested in the complex relationship between humans, the things we make, and our environment. Increasingly, our feelings, decisions, dreams, and desires are placed in a state of flux, shifted by our continually changing relationship with the physical environment mediated by technology. Nelson's sculpture, Connector Series number 2, Tiger, on the left, is made using 3D printing technology. The tiger is an important character in Korean mythology, a reference to Nelson's own Korean heritage. Aaron Nelson's work, number 15 on the right, uses an algorithm to search Twitter for tweets containing common racial epithets, and then prints them out on a continuous roll of paper, giving electronic messages a physical presence in the real world. This work uncovers the dark side of the virtual collective consciousness by rooting through the charged territories of identity, race, hate, and language. Anne Galperin's work explores communication across media via handcrafted textiles, digital data, and typography. In What Are My Rights, on the right side, the hand-stitched QR code on the sweatshirt links to the European Union website describing data protection rules for citizens. Visitors are encouraged to use a QR reader to view the website. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but on the left, features a quote from James Baldwin and is made of US-grown cotton with all its historical connotations. The typeface used is Redaction, an open source typeface commissioned from the MCKL Type Foundry for the 2019 Redaction exhibition at MoMA PS1 by Titus Kaffar and Reginald Dwayne Betts. The 4 remaining artists share a collective sense of experimentation and an interest in working with a variety of mediums and materials. On the left, Lynne Bachelder works seamlessly between 2 and 3 dimensions. In her series, A Line in Space, the electroforming process allows for the most direct and unaffected method of creating 3-dimensional drawings. This process involves drawing with a brush and conductive paint onto hand-rendered wax forms and plating the drawings with copper. These drawn forms and their resulting human quality appropriately return to the body as wearable objects. And on the right, Myra Mimlish Gray's enamelware sculptures evoke the picnic, the campfire, or a clinic. They suggest pitchers, trays, and other 20th century domestic and utilitarian objects. Her sculptures reference common items, yet their forms are unconventional. Mimlish Gray is interested in domestic objects' capacity to reflect ideals about utility and culture. Through her work as a metalsmith, she seeks to expand the dialogue of what tableware can be. And on the right, Sherry Wheat sees drawing as a poetic act. She works on linen and large paper with marble dust and pigments, creating a visual language where sensibilities are heightened. The subjects of her drawings exist in a dream world outside of linear time. Wheat's work is a record of the act of drawing in multiple spontaneous moments over time. The omissions and erasures are as important as what is included. And finally, Kathy Goodell's work on the right, her painting Jagu, is an example of her interest in the convergence of accident, consciousness, and flux, all in the space of a moment in time. Empty space is as important as paint in her work, as is the idea that some marks are made intentionally while others are more spontaneous. Goodell's work is the subject of a solo exhibition currently on view at the Dorsey Museum, and I highly recommend that you see it. It's very good. So now I'd like to start a quick tour of the gallery. And now that you know about all the artists and what their work is representing, I think it'd be nice to see what it looks like in space. So in general, the artwork was arranged and curated by how it looked next to the other artwork, not so much by theme, although there are some sections where there are prevalent themes like that I had just mentioned, like where there's a lot of works about nature grouped together. And in this case, there's a few of the works that kind of fall into the technology and process category are in this section. So starting as you walk in, you see Aaron Nelson's Twitter piece, and this piece kind of spits out this paper as it goes, and the pile of paper on the floor will build up over time as the exhibition continues. And here we see Myra Mimlish Gray on the pedestals, and Emily Puthoff is here on the sidewall. And I also have a close-up of her work. And she also has a video that is like a documentary film about her work, with the community in her Hudson Valley B project. Here we have Lynne Bachelder. You can see her prints here, as well as her wearable artwork. And Anne Galperin, her like fabric textile pieces, next to Kathy Goodell's painting there on the right. This is looking into the side gallery. We have a Anat Shiftan here on the pedestals or sculptures. You can see Eddie Newhouse's installation in the back. And then as we walk in, here's another image of Anat, her print. And then we have Sherry Wheat, her drawings here. And Rena Lineberger, the photographs from Palestine and the West Bank. And then here's another image of Eddie Newhouse's installation. And the drawings on the wall are also hers as well in the back. And then here we have James Faucet. This was hard to make a decision. There were a group of images. They were all wonderful. And it was just, I had to narrow it down because of space. That was a problem with all the artists, is trying to pick, which works to include, because I didn't want it to be too crowded. It's pretty much true of everyone, but so this is James Faucet, and this is back in the main gallery, Michael Asbill's installation. And this is kind of getting into like the nature corner where all this work has to do with the environment, nature and climate change. Here's another view of it. And you can see on the right is the video that I mentioned, the collaboration between Michael Asbill and Andrea Frank. And then Andrea Frank's work is here on the right, her digital images. And Andrea Kantrowitz is here on the left, her paintings. And we also have Aurora de Armendi Sobrino is here. You can see her in the distance. Here's another image, a close-up of this. I love this installation. These are the clay tablets that are based on Google Earth imagery. And then her book piece is kind of hidden here behind this. There we go. She has this beautiful, unique bookwork here that's in this plexi case. And the photographs on the wall there are by Nadia Sablin. And then on the left is Suzanne Stokes' installation of prints. Okay. And then here's another view of Suzanne Stokes. And you can see Brian Chabez on the left. Oops, sorry. And then here's Brian again. And then we have the paintings by Robin Arnold. And then another view of the paintings, and Jill Parisi Phillips is there. There we go. And then Matthew Friday, which I showed you earlier. And like I said, there's actually a boat, but we couldn't fit that in the gallery. So we have his plans, and it's very interesting to see the sketches and then see the photo of the boat coming together. And there's also a video, which is definitely worth watching, about the larger project with Spurs, and goes into a lot more detail about this project. There are 4 videos in the show altogether. And then last but not least is Aaron Nelson, his 3D printed tiger. And I have another view of that as well. It's quite large. So if you can get a sense of the scale here, I think it's about 12 feet long, and it's really quite wonderful. So yeah, so I hope you'll be able to see the show in person. And in conclusion, I'd like to mention a question posed by Itty Newhouse last summer. She wondered if we can stay in touch when we feel so distant, so out of touch. And I believe the answer is yes, we can stay in touch, especially when we are connected by a common experience. The works in collective consciousness are diverse, yet they offer proof of this connection. This exhibition demonstrates the SUNY New Paltz Art Department faculty's persistent unity and strength during challenging times. And I'd like to thank the Samuel Dorsey Museum of Art for giving me the opportunity to curate this exhibition. So, it was a way of me staying connected too during COVID because I had all these artists to reach out to. So it really kept me busy and kept me very, in touch with people, which was nice. So Zach, do we have any questions?
Awesome. I'm looking in the chat. I think if you want to stop sharing your screen and then we
sure.
See everybody. And everybody, if you'd like, you can unmute yourself if you have a question. I don't see anything in the chat right now. I do have a question though to maybe start us off with, which is because the process was as it was, and so far as you were seeing the work digitally, weren't making studio visits, and then we're doing the installation. I'm seeing a question come in, which I can quickly answer, Linda. Yes, these are all SUNY New Paltz art faculty. So my question is, was there anything that was a big surprise or an unexpected like scale or texture, or I'm guessing probably there were a lot of surprises, but does anything stand out as something that was like just like a really unexpected?
There wasn't anything. I mean, what happened was more, and as I picked the work through images, then when it was time to actually really narrow it down to what was going to be in the galleries, I wasn't able to make any last minute decisions. Like I couldn't say, let's bring 10 things in and then just use 5, or, I had to have exactly what was in there be what was going to be delivered. So that was hard. But I had not been that closely reading the dimensions on some pieces. So like there was one piece that I just thought it was like 24 by 30 or something. I realized it was like 80 inches long. So then I had to, because I hadn't seen it in the artist studio, and it was by Andrea Frank actually. And I just started feeling like, oh my gosh, I just chose this piece that's going to be 80 inches long. And we actually worked together and just selected a smaller piece because I just wasn't sure if we'd have space for it. But there were things like that where I just wasn't sure of the scale, because you don't always read the dimensions that closely when you're just looking at, I'm so visual, like I'm just looking at the images. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there were too many real surprises with the artwork itself once I saw it, because the artist had all given me really good images. But there were the installations, which, some of them kind of came about, I'd say Itty's was probably one that was really something that she did this year, or last year, I should say, kind of, some of it was done in the gallery. So it was kind of changing over time. So that piece, that installation was Itty Newhouse's, that was something that really kind of happened more on location. That was something that she didn't fully realize in her studio. And yeah, it just depended on the artist, I guess. But yeah, it's always interesting. It's always great to see in person, though. It does change it.
John Mark, he's very good at that.
Oh yeah.
Anybody else that has a question, you can feel free to unmute yourself. And
how did you mount Suzanne Stokes' images? How are they mounted on the wall? I could see in the picture a little bit, but they seem to have like a 3-dimensional installation.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. She actually installed them herself with they're all like oh yeah, you could talk about it, please do.
I was wondering if you knew.
Well, I didn't want to say anything, but I wasn't there that day when you came in. But
I know. I mounted them with the help of James Faucet, actually, and Bob, who's one of the is he considered a preparator? I don't want to say the wrong term for him.
Yep.
And so they were all, the ones that are hanging away from the wall are all on fishing line, monofilament, and then these magnets on either side of these little tabs of paper. So it won't mar the print itself. And then the ones directly on the wall are, what do you call it? The little foam tabs that are sticky on both sides. What do they call it? Command
strips. Yeah.
And those peel off the prints and the wall without leaving any residue at all. It's kind of amazing.
Why did you want the three-dimensionality?
I just wanted it to come off. I've done a few installations now like this, and I just wanted it to come off the wall towards you. There's also, I guess I wanted it to, the way you physically approach it is different than if it's flat on the wall. And then there's shadows cast from the things in front of it. And there's stencils hanging there that I use to make the prints. There's some handmade paper. There's a lot of embossment. So, to kind of show, you can kind of look behind the back too, all of those reasons.
And the imagery is very oceanic. You have a lot of octopuses. Were you reading like Cy Montgomery? Or?
No, I wasn't. I should though.
What is it? It's octopus, an exploration of consciousness.
And what was that movie too?
My Octopus Teacher.
Yeah, that I mean, it just relates to it. That happened after it. I've been doing this work for a couple of years now. I spend a lot of time on the coast of Maine in the water, swimming and boating and at the edges of water and land. So I think most of it comes from that. I'm most comfortable in the water. So, and then there's that whole idea of play and human animal interaction, and some of it, it's sort of frolicking, but it's also can be very dark and scary at the same time, because we don't really know what's there, right? We're just hoping for the best when we're swimming or whatever we're doing in these bodies of water. So I think it mostly comes from that and just being around the ocean a lot.
Can I
also? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I've seen work installed by Suzanne like this a few times, and something that it kind of struck me with this installation. Do you know when you're in the water, if you've ever been snorkeling or something, and there's fish and they're here and there, and there's like, it's hard to know how far things are away. It's like really disorienting, like where your body is in relation to other things. And that sensation, you kind of get that when you have these pieces coming at you and away from you and receding, and so to me it has like a physicalness of what you're seeing printed on the image. Like it physically kind of happens to you when you're standing in front of the installation.
Good. I don't know that's
but
I was going to say that too. It's kind of like being in the water. There's different layers, as you go down, and different levels and different things happening at the same time. So I think it kind of, mimics that a little bit.
Yeah.
Very nice. I liked it quite a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other questions about specific pieces or artists? I could talk about one of the other installations was Michael Asbill's that had the giant log that we brought into the gallery, and originally it was supposed to be hanging from the ceiling, but the museum was a little, I should say that the university was a little concerned with the weight of 500-pound log hanging from the rafters. So that was a piece that actually did change a little bit in the space, because after a lot of meetings and consultations with like structural engineers and people, Michael just kind of decided that it might be best to build this like trestle structure that's underneath it. So he had to go back and actually build that just kind of right before the show, because he just wanted to make sure that the piece would be safe, and that that would be, there'd be a solution to be able to show it. So we actually ended up really liking that solution and thinking it was very successful, and maybe just as, it was better even than hanging it. And so that was something that you just kind of, when you're installing art and you haven't installed something before in a new space, you just have to like be flexible sometimes, and give great credit to him for his skill to be able to build that support that he has it on. But I think it looks good too. So that was one of the more challenging pieces, I guess, to install, but everything worked out great. So.
Hi, Karlyn.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. It's so nice to see everyone whenever we can. I'm sorry I jumped in a little late into the discussion, but into your presentation, and so I apologize if this came up already. But I had a sort of more general question about your sense of the overall trend or the overall feeling you get from the work at the faculty at New Paltz. Certain art programs are reputed to have certain, or to produce a certain kind of aesthetic, or, you could say whatever, Yale, or, I went to Hunter College, for example. Hunter has a sort of reputation. So I was wondering if you hadn't already sort of been in this position of curating faculty work at a particular institution before, if you felt that like New Paltz had a certain je ne sais quoi.
Well, I mean, I think there's a great variety of work being made. And, when you first look at it online and you're trying to think of how am I going to write about this, or what am I going to say, or how does this make sense together? How do I come up with a title? There were I did talk about certain themes that began to emerge, and you could put things in different categories. And but then within that, there was so much crossover. Like there was so much work about nature and the environment and climate change. That was really obvious. But then there was work about climate change, but also social issues, or, the environment. It kind of, spreads into other things. There's technology and how interfacing with technology and the environment, her work. And there were just certain pieces that would go into different categories. So, but yeah, I feel like maybe there's not one style that I would say, oh, that's a SUNY Paltz style. But I do think that there's, I don't know, maybe there's just a level of craftsmanship, or, craftspersonship, and interesting use of materials, and, just, I guess, being aware of social issues and what's going on in the world. Most of the work has some connection to our world and what's going on. It's not just painting for painting's sake or something like that. You know what I mean? So I think that was a big connector for me.
And I love that you came to use the word consciousness, because there's a consciousness. There's a very conscious, I think, approach that a lot of the faculty take in their work. And one thing, for instance, you think about Yale, when I think about what is a Yale style, I think a lot about art, or art about the art world, which drives me crazy. I mean, not not to place judgment, but it feels insular.
Yes.
Right.
It's
and
referencing itself or something, not reality of what's going on in many people's lives,
And I feel like the work, as is evidenced in the show of our faculty, is that it's expansive, and it feels like the students are going to have the opportunity to work with people dealing with a lot of different types of ideas, and that it's not just one way to be. I don't know. Maybe Suzanne can talk about that more specifically, but.
Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
He was asking about, well, I was just saying maybe you could speak more specifically if there is kind of because John Mark had asked about whether or not there is a SUNY New Paltz art, if it's
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of you said something about craftsmanship or level of craft, and kind of, I think that holds true through most of our work. Like, we demand quite a lot of our students, we demand quite a lot of ourselves. And I think we kind of keep each other in check on that. So, and if it's not, it's a very specific level of craft. It might be that it's specifically, sloppy or something like that, but it's done to a degree that's very convincing and for a reason. Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a specific style that, because, there's over 30 of us, we all work in different mediums, we're all from different backgrounds. And, I think Karlyn did a good job in putting the show together and choosing works and placing works next to each other that have something in common. So I think that might also help that idea that there's sort of this something in common that's going through the whole show. I don't know. What do you feel that way, Jean-Marc? Do you feel like there's a sort of something similar in these works, or the way they're displayed, or I don't know?
I do. I mean, I would like to project my own desire, or my biases, let's say, towards work in a way that to me responds to what Karlyn was mentioning, in sort of a deep awareness of the environment, both politically, ecologically, biologically, just an awareness of sort of, just where you are. And as an institution itself, I mean, I feel like it doesn't get played enough that, the names of former slave owners were removed from dorms at SUNY. This kind of decolonizing that, a lot of institutions kind of tiptoe around, but it seems like more and more there's a sort of a certain kind of activism, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, with that, and also there's a whole sustainability group of people at SUNY New Paltz, and like I just became a sustainability fellow, which I have a problem with that word, but anyway, last fall. And there's all kinds of meetings, there's all kinds of workshops and retreats, and you learn, we're learning how to infuse issues of sustainability into our curriculum in a really significant way. And when I say sustainability, I mean environmentally, socially, and economically. I don't just mean about the environment at all. So, and then of course, all the Black Lives Matter movements and issues around racism of all sorts have, at SUNY New Paltz, I was just going through my book and putting in all the different online meetings. Just even tomorrow, there's like 3 almost at the same time. So it's like every week, like we're really trying to develop professionally in these ways that are current and what's being spoken about now and what's important in the world. And I do think we have that in common. I would agree with you with that. And I think this show shows a lot of that as well. And when Karlyn kept running into similar themes. So, and there's whole areas of the art department that are talking about sustainability as part of their coursework from now and evermore. Like it's being infused in this way. I'm also the foundation coordinator. So that's like 180 students, 30 classes. And we're starting to infuse that in all of our classes, like from the very beginning, from freshmen on. So, I'm glad you recognize that and kind of see that. And I'm glad your people are, backing us on that, because it's a lot of work to redo and relearn, but it's well worth it. So thanks for asking that question.
I don't know if I stress this enough too, is that this last year was incredibly difficult for the artists who are also trying to teach, and they're often have their own families, you know, who are maybe all working from home. They had to reinvent how they were going to teach, you know, partly in person and partly online. And the fact that they even submitted work for this exhibition, I think deserves, you know, a lot of credit, because I know they had so much else going on in their lives. And as this, basically we were getting submissions in August of 2020, and they were all very, very upset and preoccupied with the events, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and like everything that was happening this summer. And I think some people almost couldn't even handle just doing one more thing, and maybe didn't, you know, but I'm so glad that everyone actually did take the time to participate, because it's very valuable, and just showing, you know, everyone that we're still here and we're doing okay, and this is what we're doing, you know. I think it's really important more than ever. So I do have to thank all the faculty for participating, because I know for some of them it was really difficult, but for me, it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, there's a real deliberateness about the explorations that are happening to these social, environmental, cultural issues, and it's campus wide, really. And I think it is, and I don't say that to say that, you know, we're at a place like that we should be held up as like the shining example, like, you know, it's just, but there's deliberateness to the process and to the work, and it's continuing and it's ongoing, and it's, you know, and it's sort of reaching into all sort of aspects of campus life. And it's really, it's why it's partly why it's so great to be at a university is, you know, not only are there experts in the fields that are working alongside us, but there's the student voices. And, you know, the students are like an endless source of inspiration, I think, for me and for the faculty and for everybody at the university. And they hold us accountable, you know, which is great.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's important for the students to see the faculty's work, and it must be really, I think as a student, it would be really great to be able to go in and see your professor's work and kind of see where they're coming from, and see them as an artist as well as a teacher. So I do think it's wonderful that the university does this show, and it's great to continue it, and it's an important show.
I just got a chat. It was a direct message. I'm not sure if it was meant to be, but it says, "Thank you, Karlyn, for creating the show. It looks specific in theme." Oh, but thank you, Karlyn.
Oh, you're welcome.
From Pam.
Thanks, yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Carol.
We should also mention that we have another talk coming up next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Next week on, I think it's March 26th. Let me just double check my calendar. Yes, Friday, March 26th at 2 p.m. It's Emily Putoff, Michael Asbill, and Andrea Frank in conversation with the author Linda Weintraub, whose book, actually, I think Karlyn mentioned Eco-Materialism. It's What's Next, Eco-Materialism and Contemporary Art. I may be wrong about the title of the book, but Linda, if you don't know Linda, she's really brilliant, great writer, great art writer, and should be really great. That's on the 26th at 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll be talking more about a lot of the issues that, you know, about sustainability in the environment. So we can really go in depth in that conversation. It should be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And oh, and I also would say, as another pitch for another an event coming up this Friday at 7 p.m. You can find information on our website on the programs page, but there was a theater company, the Hudson Valley Performing Arts Laboratory, who I did a production with last year prior to COVID, where they came and devised theater piece, a theatrical work from artworks on view. they've come in and they selected a few works from Kathy's show and the faculty show, that they produce these recorded devised theatrical segments. They're premiering those this Friday at 7. It's on our programs page as well. I think that they made work specifically about Brian Chibez, Lynne Bachelder, and Anat Shifton in that show. I think that those were the objects that are featured. But another way to sort of think about the artwork from a very, very different lens, right? From this sort of like generative, and they become these theatrical works. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm really excited to see what they came up with this year.
Yeah, me too.
Are there any other questions? I don't see any other questions, but if you've got them, feel free to reach out to me. My email's all over our website. You can't look at it for too long without finding it. And please, if you're able, if you feel comfortable visiting in person, we are taking every precaution we can to keep you safe. And it's been pretty quiet this semester. The weekends tend to be a little busier, but we're open Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the show is just fantastic. So congratulations to Karlyn, and also to Suzanne and the rest of the faculty. It's just, I mean, and I really mean it when I say it's just one of my favorite of the shows that we have, because there's such a diversity of ideas and objects, and I think Karlyn did a really great job of sort of culling through this like 30 odd people and presenting something that feels cohesive and really inspirational. So
Thank you.
yeah, thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Karlyn. Great job. And
Thanks.
thank you. Great. All right, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for participating today.
Be well. Yep.
Bye.